Hello, my name is Emily, as you may or may not know, and today we're going to have a little chat about things college related. There are ways in which the institution of higher education is flawed, and there are flaws that manifest themselves more so in the general public as a result of that institution or society. Today, you are admitted to Not Even Emily University, where instead of a degree, you get a chuckle and perhaps entertained. Which is, of course, way more valuable than a degree. And of course I'm being hyperbolic, but nowadays, perhaps that's even 1% true. First, I want to give credit to the viewer who pitched this idea to me. I don't know if they want their name revealed, so I'm just gonna say some initials, right? WC, shout out to you. Your email was forwarded to me by my manager, and I really liked your idea, so I wrote this video. I want to start out by talking about the admissions process. A lot of people, they, find their self-worth or personal validation in which colleges they get admitted to. How many did you get into? Which ones did you get into? Did you get scholarships or grants? What program did you get admitted to? Some people grow up having a dream college for their entire lives. Hence those videos where, people literally have a family reunion, for their 18-year-old to click on an email and see whether they got admitted or rejected. And I don't really know about that. In a way, it's almost like Russian roulette, right? Where it's like, if I'm gonna be shot, I don't know if I want my family around. There is a lot of mental turmoil when college admissions are just around the corner. I honestly wouldn't be surprised if one of the most stressful times of my life was that era in high school. Mom, I think I know what I want for my birthday. Honey, I told you G-Wagons are not for high schoolers. They're for LA influencers with multiple scandals, okay? I don't want a G-Wagon anymore. Oh. Okay, well, what do you want? I just feel really stressed with college applications and the SAT and the ACT and just all this stuff, and I just want... A sedative? No. I was thinking more like a mental health specialist. It is so perfect that you just said that, because today's sponsor is ZocDoc! What? ZocDoc helped me and many others find healthcare providers who are close, take your insurance, and are equipped to help you navigate your personal healthcare needs. When I had my appointment through ZocDoc, the process was super fast, easy, and smooth. Okay, I was able to get a physical, which I got an A+ on, and then I also got my labs drawn, which I was a little bit more of a B-. It's not always easy to feel motivated to take care of yourself when nothing feels wrong, you feel absolutely fine, but since I was presented with factual statistics telling me that maybe I could be doing a little bit of a better job, well, I guess I have to take it upon myself to do a little bit of a better job. Can I say something? No, Mummy's talking. I'm literally sharing something personal. I know that sometimes making a doctor's appointment is the last thing that you want to put on an ever-growing plate, but luckily with my sponsor ZocDoc, they can make the process so much easier. ZocDoc is a free website where you can search and compare high-quality, in-network doctors, choose the best one for your needs, and then click to instantly book an appointment. And ZocDoc isn't just for one type of care. They have more than 150,000 providers across one of the other 200+ specialties offered on ZocDoc. You can easily search by specialty or symptom to build the care team. From primary care to dental health, from eye care to urgent care to mental health. Plus more, ZocDoc is the one-stop shop for all of your healthcare needs. And no need to call the doctor's office and wait on hold either. ZocDoc lets you do everything online. You can filter for doctors who take your insurance, are located nearby, are a good fit for any medical need that you may have, and are highly rated by verified patients. You can also see their actual appointment openings, which makes things so much more user-friendly. You just pick a time that works for you and then click to instantly book an appointment. Plus, ZocDoc appointments happen fast, okay? Typically within 24 to 72 hours, and you can even score same-day appointments. You don't even have to talk to anyone, just book with a few clicks. Stop waiting, stop guessing, and get the care you need. Go to ZocDoc.com/NotEvenEmily to find and instantly book a top-rated doctor today. Thank you so much to ZocDoc for sponsoring, and now let's get back to the video. Can I talk now? Students start preparing for college in many ways over the high school years, obviously striving for academic success, extracurriculars, internships, yada yada. And all these things integrate into student day-to-day life, right? But something isolated and specific about the college application process is the college essay. The college essay is an endeavor that can be quite torturous. It's sort of like a cover letter in the way where it's like, I guess I just need to talk about myself. It's a hard balance to sell yourself but not seem like cocky, I guess. It's like, can't I just get all my friends and family to write a short sentiment about how great I am, and then I can just submit that, right? Can't I just, all of my friends and family, I need you to, write a rather elaborate tweet about how much you love me, about all of my success and how you look up to me and all of these things. So that way I can bookmark them all and then just kind of sit in the college admissions office and just sort of scroll and be like, well, let's ask the audience. Here's the evidence, right? But there's a certain art to writing the college essay, and there's a certain trend that I want to discuss, which is trauma dumping in your essay. It's kind of almost like American Idol in that way, where if you have a sad backstory, you better be bringing that shit up or you're not going to be going to Hollywood, or in this case, college. I remember when I was brainstorming for my college essay, and it really did cross my mind. I was like, should the first person I ever come out to be this random admissions officer that I will never speak to in my life? I guess this is a good time to bring up how difficult it was for me as a minority to be living in a predominantly white conservative town. College essay prompts have often focused on, overcoming struggle or obstacles, personal identity, and challenges, which obviously this sort of paves the way for a lot of students to treat the college essay as almost a syllabus for everything that has ever went wrong in my life 101. And it's true, hardships in your life can definitely be influential to your personhood, especially when you're a teenager at the time. But I think it's interesting that, some colleges seem to determine who can be a good candidate as a student at their university or not, hinges upon their willingness to maybe talk about the worst thing that's ever happened to them. And of course, there are other prompts that might try to focus on other things like accomplishment, right? But those things can go hand in hand with struggle too, because it's like, this was such a big accomplishment for me because I had to go through A, B, C, X, Y, Z. And then you basically have hordes of 17-year-olds unpacking their trauma, writing that shit down, revising it to death, and then thinking to themselves, maybe instead of saying my parents left me, I should say abandoned because it's a better vocab word. And then you go through all of that only to be potentially rejected, right? And that's just the name of the game. The competition is high. It's basically a personal trauma off. So when my great aunt passed away, I just... Boring, yawning. Great aunt is basically an acquaintance. We were actually very close. Next! When I was 6 years old, my family dog was hit by a car. What kind of car? It was a sedan. A sedan. Call me when it's an 18-wheeler, all right? Next! Growing up, I had back knee. Okay, don't even waste my fucking time. All right, has anyone here been through something of actual substance that the university will be gagged by? Okay, no one's gagged here. Cue the music, bitch! I grew up in severe poverty. I would have to ration food between me and my siblings, and a lot of the times we would just loiter around someone who happened to be eating a Nature Valley granola bar so that there would be guaranteed crumbs for us to steal. I remember distinctly one day that we were able to finally have a full meal, and I thanked God for that meal because that was the only thing getting me through that day, because that day I became an orphan for the second time, which I didn't even know was possible. Waitlisted. In fact, an article from the Wellesley News, author Claire Wu recounts her experience with competition and the pressure to unpack trauma. Wu writes, "In the summer of college application season, I wrote my Common App essay on a loved one's death and its impact on me and my family. A few days after I shared it with a close friend for feedback, I found out that she had turned around and written about a similar experience of death and illness in her family, only it had never happened." My essay and my ideas had become a fictional story retold and repackaged for another person. "I kind of borrowed it from you," she had said, smiling sheepishly. But anything to get into an ivy, right? After some thinly veiled constructive criticism that didn't try very hard to hide my feelings, I asked her to choose another topic to write about. completely valid. It was very clear that this had permanently changed the way I viewed her in our relationship, and she never shared her writing with me again. It was, all in all, a surreal experience that illustrated how ridiculously commercialized and insincere the college application experience had become. Yet the weirdest part was that I secretly did understand in a sort of strange and twisted way. I absolutely understood her desire to be taken seriously as a person, as an applicant, and as a victim. First of all, before anything else, Claire, girl, I'm so sorry. I can't imagine painfully rehashing the death of a loved one and then your friend going, "Hey, you got something there, kid. That's actually pretty good. God, I've got to kill off one of my family members." It's interesting because students applying for college almost reminds me of 2015 Storytime YouTubers, where it's like, if something terrible happens to you, it's kind of almost like, thank God, right? Because I needed something to share. It makes me wonder how many people fabricate or just straight up lie in their college essays, because the system that's been set up, it sort of does reward people for being a quote unquote victim so that the school can serve its purpose as, you know, this person's success story in a way. Like, look at us at Not Even Emily University. We can take a sad, troubled teenager with a bad home life and get him a job on Wall Street. Now, this isn't specifically in regards to college essays, but just the college applications as a whole, right? According to Intelligent.com, hi smart, in January, Intelligent.com surveyed over 1,600 current four-year college students, along with those who have graduated from a four-year school within the last 5 years. And here are the results. 61% of people admitted to including untrue information on their college applications. Of this group, 39% misrepresented their race or ethnicity. The RCTA community is a lot bigger than we thought. 30% faked their letters of recommendation, 34% wrote about untrue stories in their essays, less than 1/3 were caught by an admissions officer. And it's hard when you've set up this system that, it's sort of a positive reinforcement towards sharing your trauma, but then you don't have a solid way to verify that trauma. Like if I write in my essay, "Every single day I was bullied relentlessly on the playground at recess. They would throw rocks at me and rub tan bark against my supple cheeks," right? What, you're gonna tell me that didn't happen? I'm sorry, were you there? The person reading my essay, what, they're gonna try and hunt down my elementary school and call the principal and say, "Hi, was an Asian girl bullied here back in, God, what, like 2006? Odds are the answer is gonna be yes. And like I said earlier, so many people base their self-worth off of what colleges they get into. So if being disingenuous means you have a higher likelihood of getting into that college and you won't be punished for it ultimately, of course they're gonna do that. All right, just secure those little stickers on your fingers and, yep, wrap that around your arm, and then just tell me about yourself. My mom and I, we didn't have the best relationship. Okay, yep, really? What do you mean, really? Nothing. My mom is literally my best friend. She neglected me daily. Okay? My mom, she never spoke to me until I got my first period. And the first time I ever heard her voice, it was because she was yelling at me for staining her satin sheets. That is what actually inspired me to want to study communications at your university because, well, communication is something that I lacked as a child. Girl, that is not true. I'm just gonna try something real quick. My shirt is purple and has ruffles. All right. This is a shitty lie detector test. Lie detector? Yes, this is a lie detector, no? No, this is not part of a lie detector. This is the university's new merch line. What? It's so ugly. I know. Wait, so what have you been looking at this whole time? Oh, I'm watching Bridgerton. In fact, this was such an observable phenomenon that colleges started taking steps towards embracing creative prompts as opposed to prompts focused on hardship or trauma. According to Daily Texan, multiple universities have taken steps to alleviate the pressure of having an emotionally heavy essay. The University of Chicago is notorious for asking creative essay prompts. Current students are even encouraged to submit ideas for creative prompts, such as, "What advice would a wisdom tooth have?" Chapman University, Lehigh University, Tufts University, and the University of California, Berkeley are just some of the few institutions that offer creative prompts. And you know what? Yeah, I think it can be a good thing to encourage people to think outside of the box instead of, relying on like personal challenges and really bad things that have happened to you in order to, better your education and career. Here are some creative college essay prompts that stray away from the what was your biggest hardship sort of route, right? Chapman University. Name one dish you would cook for the school's admission team. Pomano College. Marvel or DC, Pepsi or Coke, Instagram or TikTok, what's your favorite this or that, and which side do you choose? These next two are from the University of Chicago. They're a little bit long, but due to a series of clerical errors, there's exactly one typo, an extra letter, a removed letter, or an altered letter in the name of every department at the University of Chicago. Oops. Describe your new intended major. Why are you interested in it, and what courses or areas of focus within it might you want to explore? Potential options include computer science, bromance languages. Yeah, we know that's big right now. And literatures, fundamentals, issues in text, and history. Very interesting. Let's see, I guess I was a nursing major. I change one letter, I make it a pursing major. Because I have a fuck ton of purses. Here's another one. Have you ever walked through the aisles of a warehouse store like Costco or Sam's Club and wondered who would buy a jar of mustard 1.5 feet tall? We've bought it, but it didn't stop us from wondering about other things like absurd eating contests, impulse buys, excess, unimagined uses for mustard, storage, preservatives, notions of bigness, and dozens of other ideas, both silly and serious. Write an essay somehow inspired by super huge mustard. The cousin of Big Pharma, super huge mustard. This is the last one from University of Chicago. Find X. These prompts are really interesting. It's a very, sure, what the hell sort of vibe. But I think it's nice that some colleges are trying to, step away from the traditional college essay prompt, right? Like, you don't have to tell me about your uncle's to be a student here. Let's talk about something else. But I do love imagining these admissions people trying to come up with these creative prompts because, well, they really are quite creative. Oh, okay. What about, would you still love me if I were a worm? I think that we as adults should not be asking teenagers that. Totally right, because of the, pedo stuff. All right, what about mirror, mirror on the wall? What's up with that? Let's shelve that one for now. That's fair. How about something that's a little bit more relevant to pop culture, like Tate McRae daughter or Benson Boone's son? Nope, something like if you could make a playlist of your life, what songs would be on it and where would you play it? Okay, yeah. I do feel like the abstract ideas tend to cultivate more creativity, so what if we make one of the prompts just like a randomized GIF? Of what? Well, I don't know, I just said it would be random. Okay. Another extremely big issue with higher education, especially in America, is the cost. Holy hell. Many people might think of college as a rite of passage for young people, but it is actually such a huge privilege, right? If you're in college right now, and you're kind of hating your life and things like that, remember, ultimately at the end of the day, you are lucky to be there. Don't skip your classes, try to get good grades. That's mama's advice. College is so fucking expensive that the moment you have a baby, a lot of people, they're already starting to save for the college fund, before the doctor can even clip the fucking umbilical cord or before the baby can even take its first breath of life and start to cry, I've already donated $500 to Goo Goo Gaga Wawa's undergrad. According to a 2025 report from educationdata.org, the average in-state student attending a public four-year institution and living on campus spends about $27,146 for one academic year. The average private nonprofit university student spends $58,628 $1,000 per academic year living on campus, $38,421 of it on tuition and fees. Business Insider made a list of the most expensive colleges in the US, also listing room and board, and although this can't be reflective of what everybody is paying due to, financial aid, grant scholarships, and all of that, they stated that the most expensive school in the US for 2025 to 2026 is the University of Southern California, with annual tuition and fees coming to $75,162 and room and board $20,907. Not total, annual. As in every year you're paying that. A lot of colleges are going to be at least a little bit costly, practically no matter what. But another layer of this whole thing is in-state and out-of-state price discrepancies. The reasoning behind this is that people who live in a particular state are paying state taxes, and then that decreases the tuition for, the in-state colleges. But for a lot of students, I feel like their dream school might not be in the state that they're living in. And I do imagine that that is a lingering fear in the back of every parent's mind, right? We live in Minnesota, but my son wants to go to film school at NYU. It sucks that dreams, ambition, and opportunity can be limited by resources and literal geography, but I can't blame parents for not wanting to or not being able to shelve out that amount of money for an out-of-state school, right? Because if I were in that position, I don't know. I'm nervous to open it. It's okay, honey. This is an out-of-state school anyways, so... Oh my God! I got into USC! I got in! You did! I can't believe I'm going to my dream school! I can't believe it either. Oh my God! I'm so happy. And it's amazing because USC is in California and we live in Idaho. What? That makes things worse and more expensive. Oh, does it? Oh, right. Mom, are you okay? Are you kidding me? I could not be happier. You're gonna have so much fun there, baby. You're gonna learn so many things and... And since a lot of people aren't able to get full financial support from their parents, we fall into the realm of student debt and student loans, everyone's favorite thing. When you take out a student loan, you're basically agreeing to receive financial help in the short term, but you understand that in the long term, you're going to be paying a larger sum due to this little thing called interest. And we can think of interest as the gift that keeps on taking. There are different types of student loans. Some accrue interest while you're in attendance. Some don't accrue interest until after you have graduated, right? But the bottom line is this. College is so fucking expensive, but thank God there are programs out there to make it even more expensive in the long run. It's just so ridiculous, especially if you think about applying it to other situations. You sound ridiculous. Oh, wait, I forgot my wallet. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. I got you. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Where is my $3,000?
What?
My $3,000! I bought you a croissant at Albon Payne.
That is not how you pronounce that.
January 17th, 2021 at 3:34 p.m. That was the date and time of the transaction. Now cough it up.
Okay, hang on. A croissant is like $5. Why would I owe you $3,000? Okay, ungrateful bitch. I'm literally trying to help you. To emphasize how much student debt can follow you around like an entity that's somehow clingier than a shadow, I want to share a few points from some different articles. The first one being from UC News. They provided an overview of how student loans work and broke things down in a sort of step-by-step way. And I want to read the last step of the article. The loan is paid off depending on your repayment plan. This can take 10 to 30 years. And then this brings me to an article from SoFi under a section titled Saving for Future College Costs. It can seem insurmountable to even think about saving in the range of $40,000 for each year for college costs on top of all of your other financial responsibilities. One recommendation is to pay off your own student loans before putting significant amounts of money into college savings. Some parents find that refinancing their own student loans if they haven't paid them off may allow them to save money, giving them more financial wiggle room to start saving up for future educational expenses. Now, not for everyone, but for a lot of post-grad people, one of the biggest reasons why we don't want children is because children, although cute and full of whimsy, have this special capability to drain your bank account like the financial Hoover Dam just broke. I mean, God, the idea, the concept of feeling pressure to save for your future child's education before you have even paid off the loans from your education. I mean, these institutions are like, hey, there's an elephant approaching this room. Are you gonna address it? Hi, there's already an elephant in here. You're gonna bring in 2 elephants into my fucking room? For the majority of students, in order to avoid massive student debt, or honestly, at the end of the day, the debt is still massive, but it's like kind of just to put a dent in it, right? They have to work. This can potentially decrease academic performance, or even if you do have 2 students who got an A, one doesn't work at all and one works full time, odds are this one had to work harder. People think of college as this time to have fun, party, make mistakes, sleep around, all of this stuff. But a lot of people might not have as much time to do that or any time to do that because they're clocking in. So, how was everyone's weekend? Oh my God. So, that frat party that I was telling you about? Yeah. So, I ended up going and I told myself I am not going to drink that much. And lo and behold, I accidentally set a world record for longest female keg stand. No, like, I'm being serious. I got my picture taken and everything. Oh. But how was your weekend? Well, I had to spend a lot of time in the library this weekend because I have this huge project coming up, so I had to hunker down in there for a few hours so that I could swipe on Tinder. Totally. I also smoked a bong for the first time, which was very interesting. It made me atheist for some reason. Right. And then I also had sex with a girl for the first time, and now I'm kind of trying to figure out whether I'm lesbian or not, so I guess that's gonna be on my agenda for the next few months. But what about you? How was your weekend? Oh my God, it was so crazy. I worked a double shift at TJ Maxx. Yeah, that's fucking insane. On the other side of the spectrum, I want to talk about students who are extremely wealthy and probably have never had to work a day in their student life or have had to provide for themselves ever. The types of students who grow up in a house and their driveway kind of looks like a mini cul-de-sac, or, they feel surprised when you tell them that you didn't grow up with a maid. Like, wait, you don't have a beach house? Then where do you spend the summer? In your house? Apartment? Studio? I'm really sorry to hear that. While of course colleges want to serve a higher purpose of, providing education, career acceleration, life experiences, at the end of the day, colleges, they need money to be able to do those things. And so they have a history of accepting donations, or bribes rather, from wealthy people in exchange for their child to be able to attend their school. And I feel like we all know what I'm about to bring up, this juicy scandal, the college admission scandal, also known as, I'm gonna say into the mic, Operation Varsity Blues. Sounds like the movie title of a spy who's depressed because he secretly wants to be, I don't know, I guess like a professional athlete. This whole thing was a huge debacle in 2019 and was led by Rick Singer, a former college admissions consultant. And I personally didn't know a ton of information until I researched it. I mean, I knew that rich people were paying to get into college. And I think at the time in my head, I was kind of like, okay, florals for spring, we knew that. But it is crazy. I'm going to read the series of events, right? So a parent would donate a large sum, normally between $250,000 and $400,000, cheap change, right, to Singer's foundation and receive a tax benefit, ostensibly to unlock the door to academic, social, personal, and career access for underprivileged youth, according to The Keys, now defunct website. So heavy on the ostensibly, because how underprivileged can you really be if your family has an in-ground pool? Singer would then funnel the money to college coaches and athletic administrators, bribing them to designate these students as recruited athletes, thereby exponentially increasing their chances of gaining admission. In reality, none of these students were actually athletes. Many had never played the sports they were being recruited for. To circumvent that inconvenient problem, Singer would stage shots of these students participating in the sport in question or simply edit their faces onto existing photos of athletes in action. Imagine you're an athlete and you're looking at a photo and you're like, wait, isn't that my body? And then you look up and see Olivia Jade's face. Huh? Coaches who represented lesser known sports such as sailing, fencing, and water polo would then present these students as their recruits to admission committees and advocate for their acceptance. And that is so funny to me that Rick Singer would basically, approach these coaches and be like, listen, no one really gives a fuck about your sport. So this is really gonna fly under the radar, like this really isn't gonna be a problem. And if the students didn't have great SAT or ACT scores, Singer covered that up too. Normally it's difficult to cheat on a standardized test, but if you claim you have a learning disability or other special circumstance, you can take the test one-on-one with a proctor and have more time to complete it. Singer's bribes extended to those proctors who, for $10,000, would alter students' answers to achieve scores in the 1500 range on the SAT and the mid-30s range on the ACT. Administrators across the country were on the take, including the sailing coach at Stanford, the women's soccer coach at Yale, and an assistant athletic director at USC who was paid $20,000 per month for her work on Singer's behalf. When they called this an operation, it truly was an operation, right? And I mean, I'm sure for some families it didn't feel quite so complicated because it's just like, okay, I'm gonna pay you a couple $1,000s and then like everything is gonna be done for me, basically. It was more so complicated for Rick. He's so talented. There's mixed accounts about how many students knew what was going on. I mean, I don't know. I imagine that I think a lot of the students who did know what was going on and knew that they were cheating or their family was participating in being disingenuous, I don't know how readily they would admit to that. But I feel like a good number of the students had to have had an idea that something was going on because I mean, you're literally like cheating on your test. Like for some reason, the proctor is giving me an extra 55 minutes and they're also, I see them at their desk erasing my answers and filling in different bubbles. Yeah, I think there's something going on here. But I'm just imagining, these parents pitching this idea to their kids. I mean, if I were one of the kids, I would be like, what the hell are you talking about? Mom, can I use your laptop real quick? Sure, honey. Thank you. Wait, what the hell? Shit! Why do you have an edited photo of me doing water polo? It's for my vision board. You envision me playing water polo? Yes, of course. That is why we have an Olympic-sized in-ground pool in the backyard. I thought that's because you thought the jacuzzi was too stuffy. Okay, fine. I am paying someone to help you get into Stanford and we are going the sport recruitment direction.
What?
Because you wouldn't claim you had a learning disability for the SAT. Are you still mad at me for that? Honey, I was never mad, okay? I was enraged.
Mom, listen.
I cannot believe that you would getting into that school no matter what. And you have to give me some credit, okay? It's better to pretend to be a water polo player than it is to pretend to have a disability. I mean, I guess. If you're wondering how some things transpired in the aftermath of the scandal, Rick Singer spent 16 months in a Pensacola federal prison. In August 2024, he was released to a halfway house in Los Angeles and has returned to working as a college admissions consultant. In response to the operation, he states, "It was wrong, and I did it anyways." I appreciate your candor. What's 10, 12, 13 kids who are good students, quality people, and this one score may screw them out of an opportunity to go to a decent school? I rationalized that to myself. I probably rationalized a hell of a lot and made it look like it was not that big of a deal, he confessed to the Wall Street Journal. But when you look at it in context, it was wrong, and I know it was wrong. Despite that, he told ABC News he believed that the conspiracy was a victimless crime. I am sure there are many more isolated instances of this type of thing that just like haven't been, publicized or haven't been quite as orchestrated to generate, interest from the general public, but it's clear that, wealth and elitism hemorrhage into these top schools. And then this brings me to the Ivy League. The Ivy League is a prestigious group of 8 schools that are as follows: Harvard, Yale, Princeton, Columbia, University of Pennsylvania, Dartmouth College, Brown University, and Cornell. Now, what constitutes a school as being an Ivy League? First of all, I feel like some people might not know this. I actually didn't know this. All of the Ivy League schools are regional, right? They are all northeastern schools. There aren't any on the West Coast or in the South. Because sometimes I feel like people think, oh wait, Stanford isn't an Ivy League, Caltech isn't an Ivy League. And it's like, no, unfortunately they're a little bit too to the left, in the box to the left. Ivy League history began when Harvard was established in 1636. Oh my God, that is old as shit. Most of the Ivies were founded before the American Revolution and have long-standing traditions of excellence and deep-rooted influence in U.S. history. Admission rates are extremely low, among the lowest in the U.S., in fact, making acceptance highly competitive. And it's true, you know, when you hear someone has gone to an Ivy League, and trust you will hear about it, there's an automatic like, okay. However, that is all by design, right? These Ivy League schools definitely make enough money to be able to, you know, expand resources for their current students or have higher acceptance rates. But instead, they hoard wealth, receive tax breaks, and try to keep acceptance rates as low as possible to maintain exclusivity and formulated prestige. Historically, there have been certain types of people who are able to get into these schools, and a lot of the times, hi, they're wealthy. Wealth means having access to college consultants, tutors for college entrance exams, being able to bribe or, donate to these universities. And you know, this isn't to say that wealthy students can't have academic merit, plentiful extracurriculars in sports, theater, leadership positions, internships, all of these things. But a lot of the times, in order to obtain those activities, you need to have money to spend on them. Generational wealth also means that it's more likely that you could be a legacy, meaning that you have a family member who has also attended that prestigious school, and it makes it more likely for you to get in as well. But even then, you know, amongst the wealthy, you're all still competing against each other, and, you know, acceptance into an Ivy League is, I would say, never really a guarantee. So all in all, Ivy Leagues are curated to be exclusive, and they plan to stay that way. Ivy Leagues are kind of like a Miami club bouncer, just turning away people at the door. Whoa, no, can't get in. Oh, sorry, I have a 4.2 GPA and I was the head of my National Honor Society chapter. Doesn't matter. What do you mean, doesn't matter? Turn around. I was also varsity field hockey captain, prom queen, and I started a charity for moms with gluten intolerance. So right, join the club. I'm trying. Oh my god, hey girl! What? How did she get in? She has a 3.7 GPA and only played one sport that she was mediocre at. My dad bought all of the alcohol for this place. For the whole night? Bitch, for forever. But of course, these universities don't want to have an image of being only for the affluent. You know, they want to be able to have a level of accessibility as well. Many Ivy Leagues do provide ample financial aid to low-income students. According to collegevine.com, the Ivies provide aid to 45% to 65% of their student body, Dartmouth being the lowest percentage and Princeton being the highest percentage. However, low-income students, first-generation students, and students of color, specifically in the Black and Latino community, have expressed feelings of isolation and a feeling of, you know, I need to prove constantly that I deserve to be here. Because these institutions have a history of their student body representing a certain type or certain class of people, those who don't, you know, directly fit that mold might feel a degree of isolation. In a video from Dominique Cynthia, she made a really good video highlighting the experiences of specifically Black students in Ivy League schools. I encourage you to watch the whole thing. And I want to include some of the things that were discussed.
In terms of the wealth gap, there was definitely a huge disparity that I never experienced before. Actual conversation I heard, someone said, oh, I lost my dad's Rolex the other day, how he's gonna kill me. And, you know, people were talking, he's like, no, I'm just joking, he's just gonna get me another one. I'm like, what? Wow.
Wharton is heavily white and international. And I've had a bunch of classes when I'm actually the only Black student. And I do think it's harder to make friends and to join projects. And I have noticed when I do join a project, they try to give me more trivial work.
I was a Black woman in a discussion section with 5 other white men. I would get talked over. My points would kind of get brushed over with a curriculum that's already heavily white. And so that was a crash course for me.
I'm also a government major at Dartmouth, which is like a very old, historic, like white major. Through my experience, I never felt like I could not know what was going on. I felt like in every situation I had to be right or people would look down on me, which if my white counterpart did in class, like he could just brush it off or she could just brush it off.
I've been called seven because I kept track, 7 other Black guys. And I get it so often at a certain point, it's just like, it is what, I guess it is. It shouldn't be, it is what it is, but it is just very exhausting. Because I'm like, You know me better than to be calling me somebody else.
Sophia Barnett, a former student at Brown, has talked about her experience as a first-generation low-income student in a Teen Vogue article, specifically in regards to the distinct wealth gap between her and her peers. The cost of attending Brown averages well over $80,000 a year. As of 2021, 43% of enrolled students received scholarships or grants to help cover this cost. But it often feels like many of my peers can't begin to understand where students like me come from. Friendships are often rooted in shared identity, but I had very little in common with my classmates. I found myself floundering in conversations that predicted whose parent was going to be cast in which film, or how irritating it was that a wealthy classmate wasn't allowed to purchase Balenciagas with her father's credit card. A travesty. For the first time in my life, I was left speechless. Y'all had her gagged. I couldn't bond over shared hobbies because I had never been able to afford water polo and I hadn't even heard of vintage watch collecting as a sport. To be a first-generation, low-income student at an Ivy League is to be an observer. And this is something that many people have expressed when attending these high-caliber universities. You get some people who are quite brazen about their wealth and, maybe they don't even know that they're doing it, but then that just makes it all the more jarring. You can sit next to someone in your kinesiology class and wonder how they have a Cartier pencil case, and then you find out that their dad invented Benadryl. Do you think we can meet sometime at yours, maybe just to talk about the group project? Yeah, I think so. Let me just check.
Hi, honey.
Hi, Daddy. Can you put Genevieve Lena on the phone, please?
Oh, Genevieve Lena's out getting Botox for the yacht.
Well, I was just wondering if you could clear the helipad so my friend could come over so we can do a group project.
No can do, kiddo. I have to keep the chopper there until I get back from Paris. I foresee that I'll be in the mood for spaghetti soon, so I figured I should just go.
I don't have a helicopter. Oh, well, never mind, Daddy. She doesn't have a helicopter.
Oh, okay.
That's weird. Sorry, I didn't mean to invite myself over to your house. I just meant that I could maybe go to your dorm or something. Yeah, I was talking about my dorm. And I want to end just by quickly contrasting some of the talking points I had from the beginning versus the end of the video. I find it interesting that many college essay prompts, at least, within the past decade or so, were very focused on overcoming challenges, overcoming struggle and personal trauma, all of these things, while at the same time prioritizing wealthy kids. Because those things, not to say that wealthy people cannot also have aspects of their life that are hard, but I do imagine some of these students attending these schools who were, checked off very quickly, I don't know if they would have had a lot of tangible adversity worth writing about. I am your college advisor and I am here to help you. That would be an example of poor writing, too much exposition. But anyways, I am your college advisor and I am here to help you. So which prompt did you choose? What is the hardest challenge you have had to face, and did you come out the other end feeling stronger or weaker? All right, great. Let's just start by answering the primary question, right? So what is the hardest challenge that you have had to face? This one was honestly a no-brainer for me. I come from a very underprivileged family. I wasn't allowed to start using Cartier tampon applicators until I was 14. Okay, let's choose something else. But, it's probably just a one or the other situation. It's like you've gone through terrible, terrible personal hardships that prove that you are resilient, or your daddy has a yacht. And you don't have to have both. It doesn't have to be a twofer. But anyways, that's all I have for you guys today. Comment down below, what did you write your college essay on? And if you are not in college yet, what are you going to write it on? Yes, that's it. I hope you guys stay hydrated. I hope that you get to have something like chewy, like mochi or like Gushers, something like that. Also eat a vegetable as well. Okay, until next time.